how do you solve a projected shortfall versus a real deficit? You can look at California. The state of California has been running deficits every year almost since Ronald Reagan left office. They're an abysmal joke. California cannot borrow money anymore. The only way they can do that is if all the legislators get together, take off their watches, and go to a pawn shop. That's really the only way they get more money in. They have to beg and plead and sell off children and body parts and whatever else it takes to bring in cash into California. The only way you solve a deficit is you end your spending now. That's how you end a deficit. That's the only way you can deficit, because you're in the middle of it. It's painful. Any of us who have gone into Best Buy wanting to buy that television and realizing that, oh, I only have $100 and I promised my wife I wouldn't spend $200. Oh, it's painful. It's miserable. You walk out the door and go, oh, here, you have to take the TV back. It's no fun. The way you deal with a projected shortfall is much easier. You just don't spend it. You just don't commit to spending what you don't have. It's very simple. Now, simple for us to say, it's a little harder to do because of the political reality that comes with the spending. Too many of us ask guys like Irwin Cain to cut the spending, to make government smaller, except for the things that are important to me. That's where the problem comes in, is that too many of us ask legislators to spend money on our things but to cut it for everyone else, and we somehow irrationally don't understand that everyone else is doing the same thing. In California, lawmakers have been congenitally incapable of saying no to anyone, hence their $46 billion deficit for their current year. Remember, Texas has a $18 billion worst case scenario projected shortfall 3 years from now. California lawmakers have a $46 billion deficit this year. There's no bridging that. Insolvency, here they come. Another issue, we're not in California, who cares about them, except they keep coming here, which is, ugh. I'm more worried about illegal immigration from California than I am from Mexico a lot of days. At least those people want to work hard. Californians are sipping lattes and making movies and all that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of discussion about this projected shortfall. The way we deal with that shortfall will have long-term radical consequences for the great state of Texas. The consequences are huge. If we don't get the budget right, a couple consequences. One, higher taxes. The Republican chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, a guy named Jim Pitts from Waxahachie, Jim Pitts, appointed by Joe Straus, the current speaker, has said that, Texas just really needs to find new revenues. When a politician says we need to find new revenues, grab your wallet, change the PIN number on your bank account, and hide your valuables, because they're coming for them. His counterpart, the Democratic chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, which is the committee that writes budgets. Now, who in their right mind puts a Democrat in charge of the tax writing committee is, anyway, I'll start saying bad words and there are ladies present. But that's what we have. That needs to be changed. He has also said that he wants to find ways to just bring in more money into the state coffers. Not a pleasant situation. Not a good position to be in. Doing that takes Texas from being the crown jewel of the national economy. Texas is the only state to have actually produced jobs in the past 4 years. The rest of the states have been losing jobs. Texas is actually creating jobs. Our economy is working, although hampered by the national economy. So if we raise taxes, we become no better than Louisiana, Oklahoma, California, New York, Florida. All these states have massive problems. We don't want to be in that position. Raising taxes is not a healthy thing to do. Huge consequences for us. Now, They're not actually talking about directly increasing tax rates, mind you. They're talking about doing things like ending the small business exemption to the business tax. Now, ending exemptions sounds nice, but just remember, one man's exemption is another man's job. One man's exemption is another man's livelihood. When we start talking about ending the small business exemption, what you need to hear is ending small businesses. That's what they're really talking about doing. So don't be fooled by this rhetoric of, oh, well, we're just going to end some of these small business exemptions and let these mean, evil small business owners just pay more taxes. Those are our neighbors. Those are the people producing most of the jobs in the state. We have to be careful about that kind of rhetoric. Long-term problems result. The second way they're talking about bridging the budget shortfall is by expanding the footprint of gaming. Now, when I hear gaming, because we've got kids who are 11, 9, and 6, when I hear gaming, I'm thinking they're going to get like bigger Monopoly boards, or they're going to get, bigger, Chutes and Ladders games or things like that. That's what I'm talking about. Talk about expanding the footprint of gaming. They're talking about slot machines. They're talking about casinos. Now, I frankly can make a stronger moral case about why you shouldn't go see a Brad Pitt movie than why you shouldn't go gambling at a casino. Brad Pitt spends his money in very objectionable ways. Some casino owners may accidentally give to Republicans every now and then. Brad Pitt does not ever make that mistake. But regardless of what you might think about the moral ramifications of expanding the footprint of gambling in Texas, you have to understand that there are real costs associated with doing that. Every state that has a larger gambling footprint than Texas does has far worse economic and budget problems than Texas has. There's not a single state that has casino gambling, expanded slot machines, on and on and on, that is in better shape than Texas. They're all far worse off than Texas. So if you want to go down the path of bringing casinos to Texas, expanding the footprint of gaming, whatever you want to call it, that's fine. Let's have that discussion. But let's not deceive the people of Texas by saying that you're going to do it and bring in all this free money. A state senator, Democrat from down in Houston, who is a big proponent of it, our House Speaker, by the way, his family fortune comes from horse track racing interests and are big supporters of expanding the footprint of gambling. The senator down in Houston makes the somewhat fallacious claim that if we were to do this, there's $6 billion in money that Texans are spending in Las Vegas and Louisiana when they go gambling. We ought to have that money in Texas. Well, I'm not going to argue whether or not that money should be where it goes. The market does what the market does. The reality, though, is that $6 billion comes at a cost. I encourage you to do this when you get home this evening. Go to the website of the state of Nevada. Go to the section of the state of Nevada website for their agency listings. Pull up their various state agencies, education agency, their revenue collection agency, their comptroller's office, their ag office. I think they've got like a desert office. Anyway, and then pull up the Nevada Commission on Gaming. It is a massive bureaucracy. Massive bureaucracy. Agents out the wazoo. Huge bureaucracy. Huge costs. Gambling in Nevada is at best revenue neutral. Yes, it brings in money, but they have to send it right back out. There are social service costs associated with gambling, whether you like it or not. And I'm not putting a moral critique of gambling, but there are easily defined, easily seen, easily predicted social service costs with that revenue source. I'm not sure any of us want to see welfare expanded in Texas. Welfare takes up 1/3 of the current state budget. 1/3 of the state budget is Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program. That's 1/3 of the state budget. Essentially, those two programs in the various administration. The next third is public education and higher education. Everything else is in that final third. You and I get weird about cost overruns in prisons, or we get frustrated about transportation spending, whatever it might be. Those things are minuscule compared to the costs associated with Health and Human Services and the Children's Health Insurance Program.